Welcome to the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night. I think it's still August 4th, 2019. I'm Warren Sprouse. The Bible Forum is a ministry every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look at life through a biblical lens, try to solve all the world's problems in 2 hours or less. Alternatives is a 501c3 non-profit corporation. Donates to this ministry are tax deductible and will assure the ministry will continue. Click the donate button on the Bible Forum website or write to me at bibleforum.net. We'll take care of it from this end. Been a whole lot of stuff going on this week. Things maybe you've watched, absorbed, maybe you haven't. Senator Paul Hardesty of West Virginia's 7th District, which is coal country, started out his speech by admitting that he's a conservative Democrat who supports Trump and his pro-coal policies. He said, quote, "I am, however, appalled by the fact that you," talking to President Trump, "chose to use the Lord's name in vain on 2 separate occasions when you went off the prompter during your speech. There's no place in society, anywhere, any place, and any time where that type of language should be used or handled. Your comments were not presidential." Hardesty concluded by asking Trump to reflect on his comments and curb his cursing, saying, quote, "Please remember, Mr. President, in the United States of America, it is in God we trust, not curse." Meanwhile, over in the European Union, former German Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen has been narrowly confirmed as the next president of the European Commission, the powerful administrative arm of the European Union. In a secret ballot in the European Parliament on July 16, von der Leyen, close ally of German Chancellor Angela Merkel, received 383 votes, only 9 more than the 374 that are required, the lowest margin since the position of president was established in 1958. She'll take over from Jean-Claude Juncker in November 2019 for a 5-year term. Before the vote, von der Leyen promised an ambitious left-leaning policy program on climate change, taxes, migration, and the rule of law. Many of her pledges, which would require transferring yet more national sovereignty to unelected bureaucrats in Brussels, appeared aimed at enticing support for her candidacy from Greens and Socialists in the European Parliament. She said, quote, "Starting with we have to do it the European way," and quote, "the world needs more Europe." Her proposals included an EU minimum wage, a capital markets union, a European unemployment insurance scheme, and most controversially, the abandonment of the national veto on foreign policy. All this is just another step toward a European army and handing over the decision to go to war to the EU. This is why the new Prime Minister in Great Britain is against the European Union, wants out, will get out, whether the people like it or not. The majority do, but he's not going to fool around. Over in Palestine, in Jerusalem, a former rabbi of the old city of Jerusalem and one of the leading rabbis in Israel today said in an interview recently, quote, "We must do everything in our power to build the temple." He's talking about the 3rd Jewish temple. Rabbi Avigdor Nebenzahl is an Israeli rabbi and posek. A posek is defined as a legal scholar, one who determines the position of Jewish law in cases of law where previous authorities are inconclusive. In a recent interview, the rabbi stated that despite delays by Israel's high court, explicitly stated we must do everything in our power to build it, the third temple, and not wait for it to fall from the sky. The rabbi emphasized that there has never been any sort of ruling from the Jewish sages of the Mishnah that states that the Jewish people should wait for it to fall from the sky, contrary to what ultra-Orthodox Jews tend to believe. Science has stepped up. They have decided, not quoted, but declared that life begins at conception. Despite the efforts to deny it, thousands of biologists now confirm this truth. Matt Staver, founder of Liberty Counsel, writes, "It should go without saying that every unborn and born baby has value, no matter the stage or circumstances." He cited a relatively recent scientific assessment that revealed 95%, that's 5,212 out of 5,502 biologists who participated affirmed the biological view that a human's life begins at fertilization. It's a key issue in abortion, since many of those who support abortion claim they are unaware of when life begins, or they claim that it begins at birth, that the unborn child is not really a child. But even Harry Blackmun, who wrote the Supreme Court opinion creating a right to abortion in 1973, admitted there were concerns. He said at that time, if the personhood of the unborn were to be established, the premise of the ruling says it's legal to abort a baby, would collapse, and the unborn baby would have the full protections of the Constitution. The study that Staver is citing says, quote, biologists' consensus on when life begins. The study started out with a question of nearly 3,000 adults asking who should answer the question about the beginning of life. According to a recent report, the death rate in the United States has slowed down in recent years, and it's done so for all ethnicities, including Hispanics. However, there are exceptions and notable issues involved. For example, the death rate for Hispanics fell 2% every year between the years 2000 and 2011. However, it slowed to less than 1% annually from 2011 to 2017. That, according to a CDC report. The death rate decline slowed for Black Americans during those same years. It barely budged for white Americans. However, according to the report, between 2012 and 2017, the death rate actually rose among younger adults between the ages of 25 and 44. 21% for white and Black adults, 13% for Hispanic adults. It's becoming more and more dangerous to be a young adult in America. Most victims, young victims that is, in this particular age group, died of injuries, including drug overdoses and suicides. Sally Curtin, a health statistician at the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics, authored this new report. However, homicides has risen as well as deaths related to heavy use of alcohol, she said. It's not all driven by drug overdose, but it pretty much drives all the injury deaths. Death rates also rose 6.9% for white, 4.2% for Black middle-aged adults. These are men and women between the ages of 45 and 64 during the years 2012-2017. They were essentially flat for Hispanics after they had been dropping steadily for previous years, which means it has come up a little bit. The data paint a very different picture for younger U.S. Hispanics whose death rates are rising and older generations who have remained healthier. Most Hispanics over the age of 50 are foreign born, and many came to the United States as workers, while more of the younger generations were born right here. And what this tells us is that we, as Americans, are killing our children. We, the so-called adults, who fail to nurture our children. The educational system that has opened the door to all sorts of dangerous and disgusting behaviors, treating all of these things as if they are normal. Add to that the churches, which have abandoned God's word in favor of rock concerts, and a government that's trying to have things both ways. That is, to hold parents responsible, but at the same time view parents as being in the way, especially parents who seek to raise children in the nurture of God. There's talk about lowering the age for military service to 16. We lowered the drinking age to 18 a number of years ago until we saw what it was doing. The adults in the room already knew, but the progressives ignored them. But circumstances made the point. It will do probably the same with taking children in at 16. Recently I heard someone say that if a young person got a high school education, got married in their early 20s, and held down a regular job, that young person would do just fine. Now, do you know many younger people who do this? You see this sort of thing being supported in our movies, our music, and in the popular social structures? The answer is no. And now you understand.